I call this meeting of the Red Oak Independent School District to order at 7 p.m. Let the record show that a quorum of board members is present. This meeting has been duly called and the notice of the meeting has been posted in accordance with the Texas Opens Meeting Act, Texas Government Code, Chapter 551. Sorry. All board members are present. Mr. Kelly, would you please lead us in invocation, please?
Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day and thank you for the time that we have all come together to be a part of this district. Please lead, guide, and direct us in making the best choices for our staff and our students. Please keep us safe and give us wisdom. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Would you please stand with us while Ms. Porter leads us in pledges?
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
honor
Under the Texas flag, I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one indivisible.
Our first item tonight is to canvass the votes from our, oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Okay, at this time, I just wanted to just do a real quick announcement. Miss Penny Story came in earlier this week. I don't see her out in the crowd right now. Came in earlier this week and received her service clock as an appreciation gift for her service here at Red Oak ISD. We hope she now has time to focus on herself and her family and the things that she enjoys. I personally appreciate that she was part of the board who allowed me to initially become part of the Red Oak ISD amazing family. At this time, we have a quick little slideshow.
Ms. Story in here? Penny, are you in the audience somewhere hiding?
No.
Is she out there? Okay. We will move into our action items. Ms. Peterson, would you please confirm the votes as I read them? This is for our runoff election held on the 10th day of June 2023, Red Oak, Texas. We have trustee full term, Sean Kelly, place 5, 1,476. We have trustee full term, Penny Story, 364, for a total votes cast, 1,840 votes.
I confirm.
John Anderson, presiding officer, Red Oak Independent School District Board of Trustees of Red Oak, Texas, met with the Board of Trustees sitting as the canvassing board to canvass the runoff election of June 10th, 2023 on June 20th, 2023 at Red Oak, Texas. The board convened at 7 p.m. I certify that the figures on the summary sheet corresponds with the numbers provided by the Ellis County Elections Administrator. Witness my hand this 20th day of June 2023. Do we have a motion?
Make a motion that the board approve the canvassing of the election returns for the Board of Trustee runoff election held on June 10th, 2023, as presented by John Anderson, and declare Sean Kelly, place 5, duly elected school board member.
That you? We have a motion by Mr. Sebring, a second by Ms. Porter. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Motion passes 6-0. Next, we move into our issuance of certificates of election. Do we need to come down front? So Mr. Kelly, Mr. Knight, if you would meet me down front.
Okay, y'all ready? Okay. Please raise your right hand. I state your name. Do solemnly swear or affirm that I have not directly or indirectly paid, offered, promised to pay, contributed, or promised to contribute any money or thing of value, or promised any public office or employment for the giving or withholding of a vote at the election at which I was elected, or as a reward to secure my appointment or confirmation, whichever the case may be. So help me God. Okay. You ready? One more. Put your hand back up. Sorry. Okay, one more time. I state your name. Do solemnly swear or affirm that I will faithfully execute the duties of the office of School Board Trustee for the Red Oak Independent School District of the state of Texas, and will, to the best of my ability, preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution and laws of the United States and of this state. So help me God.
She had- I didn't see her.
Sean Kelly, we officially welcome you to Red Oak Independent School District School Board.
Thank you.
Now go to work.
Now you're the newbie. I'm not a newbie anymore. Well,
There we go.
All right. Our next action item is to, every year after we have school board elections, we always elect our officers for the school board. We can do this as much as we want, but it's typically in the May timeframe. Since we had the runoff, we moved it to June. Do we have a motion for, and we do it one place at a time? We have a motion for the president.
I move to reelect John Anderson for president.
Second motion.
Are there any other motions? We have a motion by Ms. Peterson, a second by Mr. Knight. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Motion passes 7-0. For vice president,
I move to reelect Melanie Peterson,
Second.
because that's my buddy.
are there any other motions? Nominations? We have a motion by Ms. Porter, a second by Mr. Sebring. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Passes 7-0. Secretary,
I'll make the motion to have Michelle Porter as the secretary.
Second motion.
are there any other nominations? We have a motion by Ms. Knight, a second by Mr. Knight. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Motion passes 7-0. Congratulations to all elected as officers of the school board. Next, we move into our recognitions. We have the Top Hawks. Brenda Sanford.
For the 22-23 school year, Red Oak ISD has partnered with area businesses to recognize our outstanding students at each campus and our district staff. Top Hawks celebrates those students who rise to the top. Each grading period, campuses will select the top Hawks from their entire school based on the 4 talents of the Hawk. Each elementary school winner will receive a $25 gift card, and each middle school and high school will receive a $50 gift card. Our sponsor this grading period is State Farm. We're joined tonight by Andrea Walton to present the certificates, and Ms. Melanie Peterson will assist her and also assisting her in order to give the gift cards. So, Ms. Walton, if you'll come down to the front, Ms. Peterson will help you with this. And we're going to start with our elementary, and students, if you will come forward as I call your name. From Eastridge Elementary, first grader Nicholas Thomas. Also from Eastridge Elementary, fourth grader Maharda Hubina. Red Oak Elementary, third grader Manuel Hernandez. And Red Oak Elementary, second grader Sky Romes. Shields Elementary, fourth grader Kenzie Johnson. Shields Elementary, second grader Adonis Jackson. Shutman Elementary, fifth grader Corey Montgomery. Shutman Elementary, fifth grader Madeline Moffett. And Wooden Elementary, fifth grader Damian Mendez Fayok. And Wooden Elementary, kindergartner Brianna Petit. These are our outstanding elementary top hawks.
All right.
Forgot their certificates.
Parents, you can come up if you need to get a picture.
One coming down.
One more round of applause for our amazing elementary top hawk. We're going to move into our secondary. So we're going to start with Red Oak Middle School, eighth grader, Kaylin Draper. And again, Red Oak Middle School, eighth grader, Dakota Weimer. From Red Oak High School, junior, Gabe Dickey. And Red Oak High School, sophomore, Roshini Murthy.
Hello.
Stay put. Got some more pictures. Stay put.
You're not done yet.
Awesome.
Another round of applause for our secondary top hawk. These outstanding businesses also sponsor our Hawk Staff Spotlight. From our bus drivers and office staff to principals, custodians, teachers, and more, our Hawk Nation consists of the best of the best. Every day, Hawk staff go above and beyond in a variety of ways. Tonight's winner will receive a certificate and a $100 gift card from, again, our sponsor, State Farm. Congratulations to our Hawk Staff Spotlight for the sixth grading period, Crystal Jackson, Shutman Elementary Administrative Assistant. And just a quick little excerpt from her nomination. Ms. Jackson exemplifies the talents of character and service. No matter how much pressure she's under, she always has a smile on her face and a pleasant demeanor. In every interaction, she's friendly and ready to help. Shutman Elementary is lucky to have her, as well as Red Oak ISD is very lucky to have her.
Hold on, one more.
And congratulations again. And again, thank you to State Farm, Andrea Walton, for being such a great supporter of our school district.
Okay, we're going to take a minute to allow the students to get out of here and get back to their summertime. So congratulations to all
Congratulations.
who got recognized.
Laura, does want to take a picture with Sean?
Oh, yeah.
Hey,
I said if you gave Andrea that, you did, I see it. Her bag. I saw she has it. She looks I did. Oh, so anyway. So that's
Brenda.
C. Okay. So it goes to C. Okay.
Brenda or Beth.
Superintendent's report tonight. We do have a couple open forum. Ms. Story still here? Huh? Yeah, I mean, that's where we're at. Hey, Chief, can you see if Ms. Story's out there? I understand.
She's here. Okay. She's sitting out there. We need to get her.
In my jacket.
It's 100 degrees outside.
Mr. Trimble, can you lower the speaker? Thank you. Thank you.
Ms. Story, if you, we're at the open forum part now. Yeah, yes, ma'am. Well, we'll do one, then we'll do the next one.
Which one do you have first?
Either one you want to do. You got the 11B and you had 11F. So give me
Okay.
2 minutes. If you can just state your name, don't have to worry about your address, and then when you're ready, give him a wave and he'll start your time. Okay? Go ahead.
Good evening, school board. My name's Penny Story. I live in Red Oak. And I have questions for thought regarding the choice of Pioneer Valley books. Why did the administration choose Pioneer Valley Book in Northampton, Massachusetts, a highly liberal area? Are there no book suppliers closer to or in Texas? Why did the administration choose a company stating it stands in solidarity with the Black community, Black collaborators, and colleagues when Red Oak ISD is a much more diverse student body and staff? We have 35.7% Hispanic, 34% African, 25% white, 0.5% American Indian, and 3% two or more races. And why does the school board support this vendor? I oppose this purchase and would like for the administration to look for a more politically neutral and more diverse focused book source. That's all I have to say about that.
Okay. Can you reset the clock? When you're ready, you can start the next.
All right. Okay. So, again, I'm Penny Story, live in Red Oak. And regarding the issuance of the bond, I object to Section 3 of the wording due to delegation of pricing officers. It is amended to read that there would be a superintendent and/or a CFO. I think there should be more than one making a decision, either both of them or at least two. Also, when the bond was first presented, it was presented at a 4% rate, so all of the information on the interest was at 4%. And it does say in here it can be no more than 5.5%. Today, it's more than 4%. And the third part that is a question is that the years in there says it expires in 2055. That would be 32 years instead of a 30-year bond. So those are my objections, and I wanted to make those statements. Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, next we'll move into our non-action item discussion on local board policy update 121. Ms. Sula.
So as requested, we have this as an information item tonight to give you time to review it and ask some questions about it that you may have. Would you like for me to go through each one, or have you had an opportunity to? What would you like?
If you would go through it, would be great.
Sure. Okay. So we are going to look at the local policies because that is what we vote on, what you vote on. And let's look at those. The first one that is in the packet is CCGB, which has to do with taxes and economic development. And there's a statement added at the very beginning of that due to an expiration in tax code. And that is the only change in that particular policy. The next one is CFB, which has to do with accounting, specifically inventories. The threshold remains the same at 5,000, but it does authorize the superintendent to capitalize below that 5,000 if the items are of significant value when capitalized. Feel free to ask questions at any point. I'll kind of pause between them. And the next one is CKE, which is coming out completely to be relocated into CKEA local. So there's a lot of information coming out of CKE being replaced by CKEA. The next one has to do with buildings, grounds, and equipment management, and that is CLB local. And it adds verbiage about residential property being used for student housing. We don't use residential property for student housing in our district that I'm aware of, so this is a technicality addition, not necessarily applicable, something that we will utilize at this point in time. CO has a change from the $10 to $25. This was discussed in cabinet, and this is the amount that a student can charge.
Is that up to $25 at one time, or?
Over the course of, I mean, they can go up to $25. The next is COA local, And this is assigning the responsibility to the director of student nutrition rather than the superintendent. In both places, the superintendent has stated it would be replaced with director of student nutrition.
Before you go to the next one.
Sure.
Just for Mr. Kelly's. So if it's red and stricken, that's being removed. Blue is the new information. There's sometimes another color,
Green,
green.
if they're moving
That's-
something.
Okay, there you go.
CRF is just a legal formality change, and this is actually being provided at no cost to the district. That is a required change. In CVA local, the change is to remove the verbiage or designee because BJA local assigns the superintendent the right to designate. So it's redundant in policy to have or designee in there. And in CVB, the same thing. They're taking out the or designee in that. DEA adds some clarifications. If you read through the specifics of it, the language cleans it up, makes it easier to read. They replaced bi-monthly with semi-monthly to clarify the time frame on that. And mid-year is smushed together with a lowercase y instead of 2 words. There is a slight change in the references to non-exempt employees on the second page of that one. And designating the amount in which they will be paid. FD local. Clears up some things, more just clarifications here in accordance with administrative regulations. So rather than stating some of the specifics in policy, they'll be in regulation. Not really changing the processes, just where we're recording that. So that is FD. And there's also a reference on page 3 to proportionate credit specifically related to transfers of credit. And FFI, what is addressed here was something that was completed by TEA January 31st of 2023. And it addresses that here in policy. Because that was put into action by TEA, we needed to update our policy to reflect that.
And where are those minimum standards detailed out?
We develop our minimum standards here in-house and make sure that they're in regulation and that they're in all of the proper places that we need to have them.
So like the code of conduct or, what's that? So where would one find the minimum standards, I guess is my question. Oh, okay, gotcha. Okay, thanks. Got it.
The second page also reflects the periodic monitoring of our compliance with those standards and the bullying incidents. So both of those changes are out of TEA's action.
Are there any questions, comments? I guess not. Thank you for going through that with us.
Absolutely. We'll
We'll
have it on the
this
agenda
at
next
the
time.
next board meeting for adoption.
Okay.
You do look at.
All right, moving on to our action items. Is there anything in the consent agenda that you'd like removed and discussed individually? Hearing none. Do we have a motion?
I move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
We have a motion by Ms. Peterson, a second by Mr. Sebring. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Passes 7-0. B, consideration and approval to adopt an order authorizing the issuance of school building bonds, establishing sale parameters, authorizing the execution of a bond purchase agreement, an escrow agreement, approving an official statement, and enacting other provisions relating to the subject. Dr. Johnston.
With the passage of the bond, we're starting that process. And with us tonight is Doug Witt from Samco. And he's going to give you a little presentation before we ask the board to approve the order.
Okay, good evening. It's good to be with you.
Thank you.
I used to be known as Brian's mentor. I'm now known as his fill-in. He's my much taller, younger, better-looking partner. We've been partners for a long period of time. It's good to be with you. I do have a presentation here. So we're going to summarize the plan of finance and then, as was mentioned by Dr. Johnston, ask for authorization to proceed with the issuance of bonds. So we normally start with the Bond Buyers Index of Municipal Bonds. This is a national index of interest rates. I'm sure Brian's gone over this with you before, but it's bottom left corner, January of 2001. So it's a modern history of an interest rate index that comes out weekly. The average runs across the middle in blue at 4.04%, record high in October of 2008 at 6.01%, and record low at 2.02% in 2020. With intervention in our financial markets. Today, on the far right, you'll see the number 3.67%. So we're hovering around below average interest rates, even though our short-term interest rates have gone up. That's good for your investments of your carryover fund balance. But our medium and long-term bond rates are, again, below historical averages. Your recent bond ratings, of course, AAA based upon the permanent school fund guarantee. Pleased to announce that that program is back in service. It has additional capacity to insure the bonds that were approved in Texas here in May of 2023. So we're expecting a letter from the TEA tomorrow that authorizes the permanent school fund guarantee for your next bond issue. Your underlying rating is very high, AA2, so there's no riders to the AAA rating. It goes immediately to AA1, AA2, AA3. And so you carry a very, very high percentile of rating by Texas school districts at AA2 as an underlying credit rating. That was an increase or an upgrade or an improvement in 2021 recently by Moody's Investor Service. And the analysts reflect strong enrollment growth and economic indicators, healthy reserves, positive enrollment trends, good income levels. And so those are the facts that they cite that investors read when they read the Moody's Investor Report. Review of your bond election parameters, 97.5 million, Proposition A passed. No tax rate increase is required to support the 97.5 million. The assumed taxable value of $3 billion in 22-23, and then just 2 years of growth at 250 million per year for each of those 2 years, or 500 million total. Don't want to skip ahead too far, but it's the next slide. It's going to show you that you've already grown 670 million. So you're exceeding that very, very conservative estimate. And the assumed interest rate at 5% is internal numbers that we use to demonstrate the ability to issue these bonds at the 34.81 INS tax rate. Your taxable value history, as I just mentioned, in 2014-15 in column 2, it was $1.381 billion. If you look down at the bottom today, it's at approximately $4 billion. That's based on a preliminary estimate provided by the appraisal district. We'll have certified values in July, and this is their preliminary certified value estimate. You can see the footnote at the bottom talking about before freeze adjustment and after freeze adjustment. We're up about 676 million from last year. And last year you were up about 687 million from the year before. Those are big numbers that you see. You're far exceeding any of the tax base assumptions in the bond model. You're going to price your bonds at a lower interest rate than was assumed. So in layman's terms, we are below budget with respect to this bond program, and we're going to be able to keep all the promises that we shared with the voters. Tax rate and fund balance history. Again, you heard the analyst cite you have very good reserves in columns 5 and 6. You saw earlier in your budget workshop that your total tax rate has been coming down. Your INS tax rate in column 3 that we work with has come down from 37 cents to 34.81 last year, and that's the number that you'll be setting as we go forward with the issuance of this bonds, and no need to adjust that. And then column 2 will be coming down again once we know where the legislature lands with the deliberations that are taking place in the special sessions this summer. So here's a look at your outstanding principal and interest. You got about a little less than 80 million outstanding principal balance starting 22-23, the 34.81 cents that we talked about. You were at 3.4 billion of taxable value last year. That is an outstanding principal amount to a taxable value ratio, what sometimes is called a debt ratio of 2.3%. When I first started in this business 30 years ago, state law put a cap at that at 10%. And we're down at 2%, so that just puts that in perspective that you have a very, very small amount of bonds outstanding for the amount of tax base that you have. Summary of the plan of finance, we're looking at issuing a first installment of 80 million of the 97.5 million that was approved by the voters. The method of sale will be competitive bids. The amortization length will be 30 years with a 10-year option to prepay on the bonds. That's a traditional fixed rate bond for a Texas school district. We are looking to receive, as I mentioned earlier, the permanent school fund guarantee. The interest rate for the model that you're looking at today is at 4.5%. That is slightly above where we're actually pricing bonds in today's market. So again, that remains a conservative estimate for the numbers today. The bond structure has upfront principal amortization with room for the remaining bonds. We're not going to have any problem filling in with the 17.5 million. With a second installment. The taxable value for this model is now at $4 billion in consistency with your preliminary certified value. No use of the excess INS fund balance is needed for these new bonds. We do have plans in the second part of the plan of finance that we'll bring back to you for potential board action in October, November, after we get our certified value and after the budget starts clearing. To pay off and pay down on the 2014 refunding bonds. There's about 5.9 million that's outstanding. You have the fund balance that can pay those off early. And so you're going to take 2032 maturity and move it up to a 2024 payoff. So again, ahead of schedule. That's going to save on those bonds about $1 million of interest cost savings by paying the bonds off early. It will also, at the bottom in red, leave your INS fund balance in great shape. August 30, I know you're a June 30 district, but we have to measure fund balance on the INS side on a cash flow basis because we collect taxes one time in January, and then we make a February and August payment. So for our June 30 districts, we take the June 30 balance, we measure it against the 8/15 payments. So school bonds are paid in February and August. So we deduct the August payment. That's your leftover fund balance on a cash flow basis. And on August of 23, it'll be approximately 5 million. If we pay these bonds down early, it will still be right at 4 million because we have excess in there to make up the difference between the $1 million drawdown and the $5.9 million that we're paying off early. Here's what it looks like on a graph. You can see there in green, that's the increase to the INS fund balance that allows us to then use it in the 24 year, which is the orange bar, which is the prepayment of the 2014 bonds that I just mentioned. And that red is that small drawdown of $1 million. The yellow bars are the amortization of the 80 million. You can see the drop off in 2039 and 40, final maturity in 2053. And although the order gives a date, it's called a parameter, and that parameter just makes sure that we have to beat those parameters that are outlined in there. The Attorney General's office, when they review our transaction, will look at that and say, okay, we finished the maturity in 2053. Was that within the parameters set by the bond order? The answer is yes, and they'll go down each of the parameters that are in the document that you have. So that's a look at the schedule as it will be after the issuance of the 80 million. And then you can also see the room there for the additional 17.5 million to be amortized. And probably at your growth rate, a pretty aggressive amortization with those may not take the 30 years that was presented pre-election. Preliminary schedule of events, we had a meeting with the administration on May 19th to kind of discuss the plan of finance and outline some of those topics that we have today. We're here today to review that plan of finance, and then if you wish, we can take action to where you adopt the order authorizing the issuance of the bonds and delegate authority to the administration to complete the plan of finance in a timely fashion. So with that, right now, you see on week of July 17th, that is our current time frame under which we will take bids on the bonds. From there, July 20th, we should get a certified value. Because of your growth exceeding all expectations, we don't need to wait for the July 20th certified value. For some of our May 23 bond elections, we're sitting waiting for that certified value to come in before we sell the bonds to make sure that we meet all of the targets that we had pre-election. With a mid-July sale of the bonds, then the documents would go to the Attorney General's office for their review and approval, and we had set a closing date roughly August 15th. And that's when the money comes into your construction fund. And in today's world, that 80 million will be earning very nice interest earnings as you spend it down on your construction projects. Because we're earning so much money, the federal government has a term they call arbitrage. So the arbitrage rebate will be a part of the dialogue as we move forward, because we're going to earn 5% on that money while we're paying say 25 or 450, and that differential we may have to rebate to the federal government. They won't let us earn more than we're paying. All right, so with that, I'll answer any questions that you may have on any of the topics that I covered, but there is a suggested motion on the screen and perhaps at your station as well. But if there's any questions I can answer, I'd be happy to do so.
Have any questions? No? Johnny? I guess we don't have any questions.
Okay.
Thank you.
Do we have a motion?
I make a motion to adopt an order authorizing the insurance of the school building bonds, establish the parameters for the sale of the bonds, and delegate authority to the administration to approve the sale and execute the final documents.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Knight, and a second by Mr. Sebring. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Passes 7-0.
May I ask, respond?
Sure.
The question may come up, why 80 million? Our hope would be that the actual final construction cost won't be 97.5. It will be less than that. So we didn't want to issue all 97.5 million and not spend it. So we issued 80, the goal is to issue 80 million, and if we have to come back next year, then we could issue whatever the difference is. Hopefully it won't be 17.5 million, maybe 5 to 10 million. So to answer Ms. Story's question, the order probably included that it wasn't all going to be issued at once, which would be the 30-year. So by issuing 80 million now and 5 to 10 million next year, then that would take to the year she referenced, which was 32, I think probably 32 years. So just to clarify what that was, it's not that the bond is, he indicated it's not going to be a 30-year bond, 32-year bond, it's going to maximum at 30 years, but because we may issue it in two different installments.
But the extra years would only be on the extra that we would take
Yes, yes, sir. Yes, sir.
The extra from the 80. Okay.
Whatever is above 80 would be 30 years for that, which would make total from today to that 32 years.
Yes, we're skipping C, correct? Yes.
Okay. We're going to skip item C. They are not here at this time, so we'll wait and see if they come back maybe. Consideration in D, consideration approval of 2023-2024 fiscal year budget. Dr. Johnston.
As we talked about in the public hearing, the board is required, and we're asking the board to adopt the budget for the general fund, student nutrition, and debt service tonight. And the information is provided. The other thing is to designate the chief financial officer as the individual authorized to calculate the no new revenue tax rate, which we have to do in August when we come back to adopt the tax rate. So with that, we ask that the board approve the budget as presented.
Anybody have any questions? Do you have a motion?
I move that we approve and adopt the 2023-2024 fiscal year revenues and apportions for the general operating fund, student nutrition fund, and debt service fund as presented. I also move that we designate the chief financial officer as the individual authorized to calculate the no new revenue tax rate, the voter approval tax rate, and other truth in taxation requirements.
Second.
We have a motion by Ms. Peterson, and a second by Ms. Knight. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign? Motion passes 7-0. Consideration and approval of 2023-2024 accelerated instruction budget. Dr. Johnston.
The state also requires that we identify a budget for compensatory education, which is what we get for our low-income student population, which is part of the overall state funding, but they want the board to be aware of what we've allocated or budgeted for this comp ed, and it's $3.17 million, and it's included in there with a chart showing that the majority of it is for staffing costs for the education of the students.
Anybody have any questions? We have a motion?
Move that we approve the 2023-24 compensatory education budget as presented, with the understanding that the additional accelerated instruction has been sufficiently funded.
Second.
We have a motion by Ms. Peterson, and a second by Ms. Knight. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign? Passes 7-0.
Thank you.
Consideration approval of supplemental reading materials purchase. Ms. Waller.
We would like for you to consider the purchase of some additional reading materials in our younger grades for kinder, first, and second grade. One of the things we've been charged with is trying to find the most solid materials we can find to make sure that when we send our kids to third grade, that we have given them a solid foundation and they are reading on level walking into third grade. And so we have been looking for a lot of different materials. We've been using Pioneer Valley materials for guided reading for quite some time, and have found the materials to be very solid as far as building reading and writing along with word study at the same rate. So normally you find a guided reading program that tells you what a kid should know at every reading level, but this program also tells you what a kid should be able to do as far as writing is concerned at every reading level. And so what we were looking for is some materials that would do that in addition to what we're doing with guided reading. So these materials are for shared reading. We've got different components in kinder, first, and second grade. And so in shared reading, that would be your whole group lesson. So what's considered on grade level material. So guided reading would be individual levels. This would be on grade level. So what these materials provide is books that are very well sequenced, along with lessons that are very well sequenced, to stair step the individual skills slowly and not to just rush into the whole skill. They break it apart and do it piece by piece so that we know after they leave us after kinder, first, and second, that they've had a solid foundation. We have found the books to be culturally diverse, but to be diverse with all cultures. So some of the collections I'm looking at do cover a lot of Hispanic. They cover Hispanic. We've got some Japanese folktales. We've got a lot of different cultures that are represented in the materials. What you see mostly in the kinder, first, and second grade are like we've got Rusty the Robot is a common character. We've got a pony. We've got different characters. A lot of them are animal related. It's also represented with a lot of nonfiction, so books about going to the dentist and things that are more appropriate for kinder, first, and second grade, things that they would be looking at. The kit does come with 3 books of every level, and I have them all here if you'd like to look at them. It comes with a very well sequenced lesson plan book that shows the teachers how to do the individual activities. It's got word study combined with the reading and writing, and so they're doing all of those things combined, which is what our new TEKS ask them to do. It asks us not to teach all those skills in isolation. So the book, we'll read the book. We might pull out a skill like a short vowel sound, show the kids how to do it. It immediately then puts it back into the book and shows them what that looks like in context. So they're getting all of those pieces wrapped around each other in the course of the week from whatever they're reading. It comes with all the materials where the kids are also doing hands-on. It's not a sit and get. They're sitting and having an active participation in the lesson. And so each kid gets one of these lap books and they're sitting and writing and doing some of the word study activities with the teacher. It comes with word cards and letter cards, sorting cards, all kinds of hands-on activities. So it's not just a teacher sitting up here sage on the stage. We want them actively engaging with that. The other piece that we really liked about the materials is that at the end of every, depending on the grade level, this is first grade, at the end of every 5 weeks, it comes with a controlled text. So one of the big buzzwords right now is that we're not using pictures to give them a crutch to figure out the words. This book has only skills that they have been taught, so they have to then put it into practice. So if you've been taught all these skills over the last 5 weeks, now we're going to give every student a book, and they're going to practice those skills in a controlled text that doesn't have extra stuff that they haven't already been taught. And so it's very well sequenced. It's been written by 2 reading recovery teachers, which is a big guru. It's a lot of training. And so they're very good at finding out what pieces we should teach kids at what point. So the materials come with all the materials that the teachers would need in order to do that. It also comes in a projectable. So we used to have the big books that you had to fumble through and turn the page. Well, this they can put up on their screen so the kids can all see it. It's accessible for all of them. You can also share it with them. So if you want them to read it at home with parents or you want them to read it in stations, we've got the extra books. It's got a heavy focus on fiction and nonfiction, so they're not just doing literary books, they're doing both genres at the same time and stair-stepping through those. So are there any questions that anybody has? Is there anything anybody would like to look through?
So we have been using Pioneer Valley Books for a while from that company.
So yes, so with the early literacy, writing has been an issue with making sure that the kids are developing those skills at the same rate. What their guided reading plans have, instead of doing just one book, let's teach them the word call, it makes them slow down, do deeper comprehension. At the end of that, they have to write. And so we like their plans better. We're seeing great results with their plans. We've got brand new teachers who are new to guided reading, and that's a lot to maneuver and manage. And they're doing very well with their lesson plans. We have been trying these materials out in summer school, and so I handed it to a brand new teacher to a grade level. So she's taught other grade levels, but she's new to kindergarten. And I said, I need you to use these and tell me your feedback on what's it like if you have never taught this before. All the way to, we have a 2nd grade teacher who's been teaching 2nd grade for a long time. And I said, you're teaching 2nd grade summer school. Tell me how this is to use. And the feedback from both was pretty much the same. They love the sequence of events. They love the kids are engaged. They are liking the books. The activities are engaging for the kids, and they're seeing more. And these are summer school kids who are struggling generally. And so they're getting really good participation from the kids. I had my instructional coaches come, and they spent several hours going through the materials. I also spent some time with Miss O and Miss Dockery, and we looked through the materials, and the principals as well. We had a meeting and showed them to them, and I got great feedback on all of them. So they were very happy with what they found in the materials.
And there's all kinds of topics. It's not just related to certain issues that are out in the world right now that we...
It is not, and I don't find those issues in any of these kinder, 1st, and 2nd grade books. The creators are not designed to stir up controversy in these books. They're genuine teachers that are wanting kids to learn skills. So the majority of the characters that you're going to see in these books are young kids. They're representative of all ethnicities, and they're representative, mostly it's animals and those kind of things that are kind of their heartfelt characters that you'll see in these books.
Thank you.
Yeah, I read through Rusty's. I like that one.
You did, yeah. Mr. Knight did read through Rusty. It was an easy read. He was able to get through it pretty easily.
So I showed 24, the quantities 24, 24, 27, and 75. Those are kits.
So yes, so the 24, those are kits, so it would be 24 kindergarten kits. The 75 is the number of digital licenses that comes with it to shine the books up on the screen.
Is that
And
one kit?
I'm sorry, this is one kit, yes. This is the first grade kit that's sitting right here.
So how would you divide that up amongst your elementaries?
Every teacher's getting one of these kits.
Every teacher?
Yeah, so every teacher would get this complete kit. And then they would get the online so that they can project the books up on the screen.
These are made to be done in class.
Yes, so this would be their whole group instruction, so what every student would get that's on grade level. So what we like is several companies will do just different books, but they're not necessarily in order of reading level. These books, so this is the first grade kit. What we would want students coming in reading on is a level C, and we want them leaving on a J. This first book in this kit is a level C, and it works its way all through. They don't jump around. The last book in the kit is a J. And so it's very well sequenced to stair step those skills. Yes.
So you're tracking each student as they read through the books?
Yes, so the students will be reading through all the books as a class group, and they'll do the activities. At the end of every 5 weeks, then they will do independent practice with the book that incorporates all the skills over the 5-week period. So one of the things about reading is the first time you present it is not really, like, it takes us a few times to kind of see it in different contexts. And so after they've had about 5 weeks to kind of play with all those skills, then we look at it in context and see how we're doing with it in a new book in a new context.
If a student doesn't pass the assessment, do they start over? Do they?
They don't. So then we fill it in with, and what we like about it is we fill it in with the guided reading system that they have. And so we find out where the students are struggling, and the plans that they have, we can pull additional books on that level with the same methodology to fill in some of those gaps in small groups or individual, however that needs to be happening.
Yeah, thank you.
So the other group that you have, he asked about the kids that are struggling.
Microphone.
Oh, sorry. He's asking about the kids that would struggle. What about your GT kids? So like if you're already coming in above what this is starting at.
Sure. So we do have, so I will tell you, I have one of those students who didn't particularly love guided reading because he was an above level and he thought that was baby books. We have found these books to be very successful because they have different takes on different things. So he was doing guided reading and the book was The Science Behind Fairy Tales. And so it gives them the ability to build in those skills and to extend the skills and extend, like if they're already reading and writing above, then they're going to read additional materials that are above level using the guided reading books that we have from their company as well.
Any other questions? Do a motion?
I'll make the motion that we approve the purchase of Stepping Together shared reading from Pioneer Valley Books as presented.
Second.
We have a motion by Ms. Knight and a second by Mr. Sebring. All in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed, same sign. Passes 7-0.
Thank you.
Consideration and approval of technology consulting services, Ms. Corns.
Good evening. So I'm coming tonight because the technology demands have changed significantly over the last several years. With online testing, we have an increased need for making sure that our network is up and running at all times. We are one-to-one with our devices, and then we also have an increased need for our cybersecurity as more and more districts are being faced with cybersecurity challenges. So due to this, we are asking to partner with a consultant firm that would come in and provide an outside look at our systems and look at what is our infrastructure, what are the things that are happening that we need to make sure we are planning for over the next 5 years, and what are the things that we can do to support making sure that we have the best affordable technology as we open the new middle school. And so this consultant firm would work with us. They would also be looking at quantitative data as far as looking at all of the data pieces that they can pull, but then they would also be looking at qualitative by running focus groups with students, staff, and leadership across the district. So at this time, I just ask if y'all have any questions, and I can answer them.
So this group is getting ready. They're looking at what all we need for the new middle school
Yes, ma'am.
so that we're ready to go when it's opening day.
Because the big piece is that we don't want to just put something new and shiny in there. We need to look at what are our instructional needs,
Right.
and we can have the technology to support it.
On True North, what's been the background on them? You know, I mean, as far as their knowledge, skills, levels, you know, I know just different consulting groups have different levels, and I just want to make sure that what we're stepping into, you know, we partner but we also have an understanding of what's going to be required of them.
Absolutely. So we talked with several of the districts that they'd worked with previously, and we talked to people in various roles. So Midlothian's used them, Royce City's used them. They have a number of districts that have been working with them in this area and then in the Metroplex. When we actually reached out to them, they came and did a face-to-face meeting with us, which was rare. Some of the consultant groups were not willing to do that. They came and met with us, and they actually have helped us in the past. Part of their company was part of TFE, which is a company that we still use.
Okay.
So the 94,000 is just for the assessment?
It's for them to do the complete assessment. So it's about, he said minimum would be about a 90-day project. Then the qualitative piece could last longer depending on how fast we need to do the focus groups.
So what's the typical, if you talk to Midlothian or Waxahachie, you do the assessment, and then what's your services?
So that's not, this isn't about the actual putting our packages together. They're looking at what do you need and then allowing us to work those pieces. So this is like kind of getting an inspection on your house. So that's where they're coming in just to give us, these are the things that you need to be ready for over the next course.
I know cybersecurity is going to be one of the big ones.
Yeah.
Because the attacks that are going on right now, they're getting worse. I know a lot of IT folks that that's what they're seeing is the attacks that are going on are getting deeper and deeper and more sophisticated. So are they going to be looking at that part as
Yes.
well?
Yes, so we are looking at all of the pieces of their cybersecurity assessments to look at what do we currently have, and then what other pieces do we need to be planning for in the future.
So I understand the need for an assessment. My concern is we're doing an assessment because we feel that we have deficiencies or we have gaps that we're trying to identify. But typically, if you do an assessment, somebody tells you what your gaps are, we're expected to fill those gaps ourselves.
So he will help. They will help if we need. We can continue partnering with them, I guess is the way to explain it. One of the districts, that's one of the things that they reached out to him after they did it. One district, they said that they moved on and tried to work their own plan and then called him later and went, okay, hold it. We need you to come back in and work on additional pieces, whether it's training of staff or reaching out to additional, working through one of the different projects.
But is that included in the 94,000?
That
I
is
guess
not
is
included in this.
my question.
So it's not included in this part.
So when you talk to Waxahachie, you talk to Midlothian, what are they spending besides the assessment for their
I
services?
do not get into those details. So I think some of it's going to be based on what your needs are and what the priorities are for the district. So one of the things that they will do is lay out, here's a phase 1 plan, here's a phase 2 plan, here's a phase 3 plan, and kind of allow the school board and the district to decide how far into each phase they are ready to go.
Can we talk to Midlothian or Waxahachie?
Yes, that's fine.
This 94 is just an assessment.
So it's a really thorough, I think y'all have the packet of the
It's in your,
assessment.
it's in your packet.
It's a thorough assessment that looks at multiple phases. That looks at the infrastructure, it looks at all of our, all of the network pieces, but then it's also going to look at staffing and look at a 5-year refresh plan. So it's looking at multiple pieces. It's looking at all of our safety pieces. It's looking at, because the technology is not just going to be the computers. It's going to be the whole system.
Because they didn't have access to one thing.
we're a lot farther ahead.
Randall used them for everything.
They used them for the assessment, they used them for support after the assessment.
After they told them what they needed, what the deficiencies were, they'll tell you that when you'll get it done cheaper somewhere else, you know what you need to do. So Roy City didn't use them to do it after the fact, but they did the whole thing, identify what.
Okay, so they just used them for the assessment to identify
It's kind of
whatever gaps they
setting,
had.
helping us set the priorities and helping us as we look, because we aren't, part of this is not filling one of the positions that we have. And so this would help us determine what we're looking for when we fill that position.
So they gave you a breakdown of what they're gonna assess. Do we have have you done an assessment, or we done an assessment internally? What they're looking at to see kind of where we think we are?
Yes, well, if you look on page 17, it gives you the breakdown whenever this was all brought to cabinet, and they separate it all out. And these are the pieces that we felt like they needed to look at, so you can see the breakdown of the base assessment at the top. And then as you go down, it tells you all the different things. I mean, we're doing the firewall review, everything.
No, I get the breakdown of what it's not just, because they're looking at every area.
Every aspect.
I get that. My question is, has our IT department done a self-assessment based on when are you thinking this is going to happen? The assessment. If we went forward tonight, when would the assessment start?
When it would start, so we would, they said it's a 90 days until substantial work is completed.
Okay. So that I guess that's my point. Have we done our own assessment? Obviously, we've done some level of an assessment to say, hey, we need some help.
So we have been doing some pieces, and some of it right now is looking at where do we need to go next? Do we need to be focused on the cybersecurity piece? Do we need to be focused on our devices? Where's our next step? And how do we make the next right move? And so this is to give us a full picture of where we are and where we need to be when we're ready to open that middle school.
Okay. Because the reality at the end of this, it could be, hey, you need X number of dollars for new equipment.
Absolutely.
You may need more people,
Yes.
right? So, okay. Any other questions?
I was just, I'm go back to cybersecurity. I know I think it's on page 9 where they're talking about cybersecurity, but they said optional.
So it is optional. We've decided that we want to go ahead and do it
Okay.
because it is such a big piece. But in that, so one of the new House bills that came through is requiring MFA by 2025. We're already ahead of that. We are trialing it right now
Yeah,
with the
820.
plan. With the
Talking about
plan to
Bill
roll it out.
820.
Okay. Do we have a motion?
Could we, does this have to be decided tonight? Could we get more information before we made a
That would be,
decision on spending that much money? Or
that would come in the form of a motion.
I didn't know if my question was, does it have to be done tonight?
If that's your motion, then yes, it could be done.
Well, then I move that we table this until we have a little bit more information.
Second.
So we have a motion to table it by Ms. Peterson, a second by Mr. Sebring. All in favor, say aye.
Yes.
Any opposed, same sign? That was kind of a weak vote. Okay. We'll come back.
Okay.
Plan to have that if you can, for July. We'll come back and revisit it next month. Consideration approval of technology device purchase Chromebooks. Tony Macedo.
Good evening, school board.
Evening.
So there's two purchases. The first purchase is about Chromebooks. We need 400 Chromebooks, and this would be covered by a grant. The 400 Chromebooks are not immediately needed, but we have to do it this school year because around April, 20%, like 1,500 are going to start going out of compliance. And in this case, the out of compliance is they'll stop getting updates. So because we purchased them over several months, starting in April through next year, we'll have to replace a lot. So this is 400 covered by a grant.
When you say April 2023 or 2024?
24.
So we're looking at 400.
And you said it's covered by grant?
Yes, sir.
Just one question. I know they're Chromebooks and, what size hard drives these things have?
They're pretty small, but unlike Windows, you don't have a desktop. You can't copy to the desktop.
Yeah.
We can see that if it's one logged on by a lot of students, it can fill up. And before testing, we kind of have to do a precaution of resetting anything that's full. But since it's one-to-one, the great majority, like over 90%, never fill up their hard drive.
Okay. I
So you
just
can
know.
survive with a small hard drive in this case.
I just know, I know they have 4 gigabyte RAM, but I didn't see any information on the hard drive. So,
Yeah, it's not a spec we're very concerned about.
We have a motion?
Move that we approve the purchase of the Chromebooks from Delcom Group as presented.
second the motion.
We have a motion by Mr. Sebring and second by Mr. Knight. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Passes 7-0. Next, laptops.
Thank you, school board.
Thank you, sir.
All right, the second one, these are 75 Windows laptops for the teachers, and these are the teachers at Shutman and Eastridge Elementary. Last summer, we're trying to chop up the schools in a way to have a replacement schedule. Last year it was high school, and that was the largest group. So this is 75, and it'll stay under 100, hopefully for 4 years, and then we'll get it back around to high school. This is coming out of the budget. The total is $58,389.21, and this will come out of the technology budget for 23-24.
For our laptops, does each laptop have a license for Office? Do we use Office 365?
Yes, and we've had a license for Office 365, but there were some technical limits about going to it, and that was the Cisco upgrade, and we're going to that right now. So we had a license for 19 and Office 365, and this is going to be the first year we're going to be able to take advantage of that.
So most laptops have Office Suite on the laptop?
Yes, and last year there was 2019, now it'll be Office 365.
Have they used Office 365?
Not everybody.
Have you ever used it?
Yes.
Did you like it?
A little slower.
You get used to it.
Yeah. I think the ones who use it probably don't like it because you have to be logged in to be able to use the thing.
Well, it's a little slower, like I said, you want to open up a Word document, you got to wait for it to load.
Yeah.
Instead of clicking and it's there. So, I've never tried it offline. Like not logged into the system, so I don't know.
Yeah, it's going to have so Office 365 has a web version. It also has a local install. It doesn't get talked about because I think maybe the novelty of it is on the web version. But when you get Office 365, there's a local install.
Okay, so that's my point. I mean,
Yeah. So
the
you
preference
can
is to
run
have it on their laptop because if it's not on your laptop, you can't use it unless you're logged in.
Right. So there is a local version. It kind of has the graphics that make it look like Office 365, but it's not 100% reliant on the web.
Okay.
It's nice to have that feature.
Okay, thank you. Do we have a motion?
Well, with that, I would make a motion that we approve the purchase of the laptops from Delcom Group as presented.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Knight, a second by Mr. Sebring. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Passes 7-0.
Thank you, school board.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Okay, we're gonna go back to C, consideration and approval of district property and casualty quotes for insurance renewal. Ms. Phillips.
Good evening. Coming to you to talk to you about our renewal tonight. Every few years, I like to have our representative from Frost come and speak to you about the market. And we've got quite an increase this year. Typically, we look at about 11%. This year, it's considerably more. So I wanted to give him the opportunity to kind of explain to you why that is so much more this year. Tim Killeen with Frost. Yeah.
Okay. I speak loud, so I don't want to blow your ears out. Well, first of all, thank you for allowing me to come, and thank you, Julie and Bill, and so I do apologize for my late attendance, and thank you for kind of bearing with me. Flights aren't always on time anymore, right? So anyway, so I do want to come, and obviously the renewal this year is a shock. It's a shock to everybody, but it's also a shock to the industry because everybody is feeling the pain of what's happening in the property insurance world right now. And I do want to apologize to the district and to Bill in particular, because the guidance that I had given a number of months ago was quite off, because of the guidance that I was receiving kind of from our markets and from TPS in particular, who is your property market. Now, TPS, as many of you may know, is also a risk pool. So that means they're an interlocal risk pool, so they are a government entity. And so so you basically are part of a program where you share in the risk of many, many, many other school districts and many other public entities around the state. So you participate into to a larger pool of risk with many other public entities around the state, mostly school districts. They mostly make up the TPS risk pool, okay? And so you're sharing in that risk. So the guidance that I had received a number of months ago was a little off from their standpoint because the market has been that bad. It's been that bad for a number of years, but this year in particular, coming off of many years of terrible storm losses, as we're acutely aware. I don't know, were we able to get this distributed? So if you've all got this kind of gives you a kind of a snapshot of what has happened kind of in the marketplace and why property insurance rates in particular are so outlandish. They're outlandish because insurance companies globally have been paying billions and billions of dollars of losses consistently over the last 5 years. 2022 is the third most costly property loss year on record. The two previous to that were within the last 5 years. So that gives you an idea of the amount of dollars that are being, globally speaking, that are being put out to compensate and pay for losses around the world. The reason why this impacts you is simply because reinsurance companies are the backbone of the insurance industry. Okay, they're the companies that everybody goes to, and when reinsurance basically provides the insurance coverage to insurance carriers on a global scale. Okay, so every insurance company that you do business with reinsures their portfolio of coverage. Okay. And these reinsurance companies kind of dictate to the industry. So when the reinsurance markets hit, that affects all of us because they either raise their rates or they shrink capacity. And so the issue that's going on in the world right now is that the insurance companies are faced with shrinking capacity that they can deploy to the marketplace. So in Texas in particular, we're hit hard because we're a black spot as a state is concerned in the property insurance world, in the property insurance market, because we suffer a significant amount of these losses. When you consider the freeze losses, you consider the storm damage, you consider the convective storm that hits through this particular area, you consider the Gulf Coast with cat losses, we're just a difficult state from an insurance standpoint for property. And so that kind of hits us in that capacity. So it's a bit of a double whammy. So the problem that we're faced with is that when insurance companies try to put together a program to insure a risk, especially when we're talking $250 million worth of coverage. That takes many insurance companies cobbled together to provide that amount of coverage. And we're seeing that all, and then you compound that with all the districts, with all the public entities, with all of the property throughout the state of Texas. That's kind of what's driving the problem. The other issue that's driving the problem is inflation, the cost of construction. We are seeing that balloon up, as you all are fully well aware, what it's costing nowadays to build a school. Insurance companies are acutely aware of that. They're paying these claims. They're paying to rebuild, these schools now, which many around the state are costing in excess of $200 million to build high school. As you all know, middle schools, elementary schools, the costs have escalated significantly. So insurance companies are pushing for valuation. They're pushing to increase value. So this year we've also, the carriers have come down to us here or TPS has come down to us and said we need to increase your values to accommodate that. So we've increased the property values for Red Oak ISD by, on average, about 10% overall. And so we've had to increase the values, which increases the premium. So that's a factor that's come in to your program. Okay. So these are all of the things that kind of bubble into why the program this year was hit the way that it was. The good news is, if there's good news in all of this, is this is still significantly better than what you would find on a standalone program. If I were to go out, which I do for many districts, because the risk pools that are out there restrict themselves, honestly, to smaller districts. So some of the larger districts around the state are kind of on their own and or coastal. So if you're in Houston, or you're along the Gulf Coast or any of these other places, you're on your own. All right. None of these risk pools will provide property insurance to you. So they really focus on smaller districts where they can accommodate your property insurance, whereas other districts are kind of on their own to build their own program. And I can promise you, you don't want to go there, because I have one district in particular. I have many districts, but they're all seeing these significant rate increases. But for the first $100 million worth of loss limit for this one district, it's taken the insurance wholesalers that we do business with that put these programs together, it's taken them over 28 different insurance companies to provide insurance for that first $100 million. Now, mind you, this is a district with $3 billion worth of values, but they're only buying $100 million worth of coverage right now, which is unheard of. And you don't even want to know what their premiums are at the moment, because it's that's all they can afford, right? That's all they can afford. Because they've normally been buying $500,000 worth of loss, $500 million worth of loss limits 2 years ago. They're all the way down, being forced to buy anywhere from 100. We'll see kind of how things flesh out in the next few weeks, because they're also a 7/1 renewal. Going to buy between 100 million and 200 million, because that's all they can afford. Their budget, only allowed for so much, and they're at it at the $100 million number loss limit. So that's what other districts are faced with. I'm sure Julie and Bill may have shared with you some of the other concerns. You're not the only district. Many districts have been hit with 40% increases year over year, and it's ranged anywhere from literally 30 to 40% is kind of the average, right? And that's, unfortunately, we're in that space here, mostly because we've had to increase the values, but also the good news is that you bought cheap insurance previously. Okay, the years kind of leading up to this, the actual costs overall for this, comparatively speaking, have been on the lower end, which is good news, right? Which has been good news, especially since the tornado loss fell off the loss runs where insurance companies evaluate you. It's a 5-year loss. It's about the max. So a couple of years ago when that fell off, it was nice. It was nice. We were able to garner at least a couple $100,000 savings off of the prior year's premium, but unfortunately, those things eventually come back to roost for us. Any questions?
You have questions?
Did I ramble? Did I?
No, you're good.
I know I kind of was
Good
all over the
information.
place and provided a lot of, kind of a lot of insurance ease, so to speak.
I got a couple questions about what's chose to be covered, I guess.
Yes.
So for automobile,
Mm-hmm.
is that, it says any auto, does that include buses?
It's all buses, yes.
It's everything.
Yes.
So even if it's a car or a Suburban, our deductible is 5,000? Right?
It is, and that may, yeah.
Per accident.
Per accident, it's,
And
depends on what kind of, I think it's 25, let's see here. For the liability portion, yes.
Yeah.
The comp and collision deductible is only 2,500. So the damage to the actual district vehicle deductible is only 2,500. The liability portion
Oh, okay, gotcha,
is the 5,000.
gotcha. And law enforcement,
Mhm.
that's for our local police department? At
Yes.
the
for your-
district?
For your district law enforcement, yes.
And school board legal liability?
Yes, that's for you all. So you definitely want that coverage.
And what
And
would
that's
that-
important.
and
And
what would
that
cover?
actually, okay, so that's your board of directors. It's like your D&O coverage. Okay, your directors and officers coverage. So you all that serve on the board here, you aren't insured under this policy. So in the event that someone brings a lawsuit against the district related to your actions that you vote on and that you take as board members, not only is the district covered, but you all individually and personally are protected by that particular policy for decisions and for actions that you take as a board as well. Yeah, super important coverage, honestly. Because a lot of boards that if you see in the news, lots of lawsuits are flying out there right now for all different kinds of reasons. And lots of lawsuits are coming against boards for all kinds of actions.
So don't do anything to get us in trouble.
Let's keep it clean. And I will say this, TPS, as far as the package of insurance coverage, which is what all of this is for you, is second to none. Not only are you garnered these liability protections, but you also have in this package a full cyber suite of coverage, which is, if I were to go out to the market right now, you'd spend over $20,000, and I think your quote is like $7,100 for cyber liability. That's unheard of in the market right now. You have full crisis management and terrorism coverage automatically included in most of my districts that are not part of a risk pool. We have to go out and buy those separately, and those are tens of thousands, if not, in excess of that, of additional cost. So the additional suite of coverages that are automatically included in this package with TPS is quite honestly astounding, comparatively speaking, what other districts pay. And the good news is too that your school auto is also kind of unbeatable, especially since we've had some losses that have been kind of trending up a little bit over the last few years. So those are actually really good rates. So on the property is the one piece, but all of the other coverages that are packaged in here also are actually are below market, we'll say.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you.
Any other questions? We have a
Thank
motion?
I move that the board approve the renewal and purchase of the district property and casualty insurance through TPS.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Sebring and a second by Ms. Peterson. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Passes 7-0. If you look at this sheet, gives you the good breakdown of last year and this year's. Most of it's property value and commercial automobile and stuff.
And increasing our values, I just want to say, has been like I've looked at that on my radar the last several years because I knew that we were a little below, having experienced the Shields tornado, where we should be. So all in all, that's a good thing. It's just at a cost.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That concludes our action items. You'll find information items at the bottom of your packet. The time is 8:36 PM. The board will adjourn to closed session pursuant to multiple Texas government codes as listed on the agenda.